It's definitely broadened my perspective of my own life and my outlook on my life.
The way they describe it makes it seem so much more real and lifelike than perhaps what we've been introduced to just in class or, you know, textbooks.
The stories sound unbelievable because they're stories that you could never imagine happening in your everyday life.
I'm really grateful and thankful that I got to experience this because otherwise I wouldn't have learned this much from it.
In my Darwin's Legacy class this term, I decided that it would be very interesting for the students to explore human nature by looking at both the dark side and the brighter side of human nature using the Shoah Foundation archives that we have here at USC. The Shoah Foundation archives are 52,000 testimonies of Holocaust survivors, about 2 hours each, so more than 100,000 hours of video testimony of survivors talking about their experiences in the concentration camps.
They have interviews of people who actually lived through the history, and when you watch all the interviews, the topics aren't just on the Holocaust.
But here you have access to thousands of them, and from all different races.
Where you're looking at Japanese Americans and African Americans who fought in the military and weren't acknowledged in the 50s and the 40s, but later in life they were acknowledged and they got benefits. So you get to see like the darker side of humanity and like the lighter side of humanity.
It wasn't as black and white, it was so gray, and I was like, I really wanted to watch these videos and put something together that would make people think.
I asked them to pick out a theme that related to our Darwin class, so something about the root causes of problems in the world.
Because they usually show the male Nazi officers, and I wanted to kind of bring out the actual female Nazi officers and show them and try to figure out if there was like a relationship between the female prisoners with them.
I wanted to know whether altruism in humans was an external pressure from society, whether it's because society says, we need to share, we need to be selfless, or whether there was something inherent about selflessness.
Look at the female perspective and see how they're actually, like, that whole entire experience versus the male. You'd think that they were at least like more lenient or more like compassionate towards their same gender, but it seems actually the opposite.
The inspiration for my project comes from my career aspiration to be a doctor. I wanted to investigate the darker side of human nature, especially in the camps, in the Holocaust, based upon medical experiments that occurred.
It's people's lives that we're talking about, and cannibalism, something that we so rarely hear about in everyday life, in everyday speak. This actually happened to people, and it was just something I had to look into.
I did my video on topic of survival during the Holocaust, and how that revealed some truths about human nature, especially humans under stressful situations, and what motivated them or what allowed them to will themselves on to survival.
And our project is titled Ethnic Eugenics and Why They Were Wrong.
Although we have a huge cooperation ability, we sometimes don't show that, and the darker side of us comes out.
We're not only looking at Germany and what they did with the Holocaust, but we're looking all across the globe. We look at what we did in America with discrimination against Japanese Americans, African Americans, and homosexual Americans.
It's interesting how surprisingly relevant what they talk about can be to issues that are around even today.
I wanted the students to be recognized for their hard work, and I invited a Holocaust survivor, Max Schindler, to come and give the opening speech for our reception.
My brother fell into that stampede pile. We were able to pull him out and only lost.
And it was a great chance for the students to interact with somebody from another generation.
I feel like my generation is kind of being robbed of a valuable experience and listening to valuable perspectives.
If there's no kind of like remembrance, then the younger generations are soon gonna forget about it, and if it just goes back into like history, there won't be any recollection.
It really puts our lives into light, how casually we can go through life and how kind of selfish like our modern society has become.
Some values, some traditions, some concepts that have been valuable to those before us probably will be just as valuable to us. It's just a matter of remembering them and their significance.
One of the people in the audience wrote to me later and said that she wished that somebody had said never again. And I think that nobody said that because it's already happened again, over and over again, in Rwanda, in Bosnia, in Cambodia, in Armenia before that. You know, I mean, it is part of the human condition. Doesn't mean that we can't change it, but I don't think that we're at the point yet where we can say never again. We can say we hope never again. But this is the kind of exercise that can actually lead people to think about how to stop that cycle of violence.
I think the younger generations, I would say, is considerably more apathetic towards a lot of things, towards politics, and yet, you know, it's the age of information. We have all this information at our fingertips, but a lot of, you know, kids my age don't really go seeking it out.
So it's very sombering sometimes to watch, and also very inspiring to see. So I greatly enjoyed it, and once in a while I just kind of go on the show database and, you know, just watch people's stories.
The most powerful thing was realizing that maybe we all have these characteristics inside of us that we don't even know about, that could possibly help us deal with terrible things.
If everyone knew that their story could have some importance later on to a future generation, I mean, I think that's one of the most important things anyone could have, is that encouragement.